There we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 92nd episode of OD and Chill. My name is Jenny Mesdag, and I'm the Managing Director for the Americas. I am joined here with Jonathan and Eric from Geyser Systems, and I'm so excited that you're both here, and thank you so much for taking the time to spend some time with me talking about your amazing brand. Before we get started, I will share with the group that we are broadcasting live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I might be missing one. But for anyone who is joining us live, if you have any questions or want us to dig deeper into anything we're talking about, please feel free to enter those questions or comments into the chat, and we'll be sure to address those as the conversation evolves. So that said, welcome, Eric and Jonathan. This is great. Why don't we start with just some quick intros? You both can maybe share a little bit about who you are, what your role is, and then we can get a summary of what and who Geyser Systems is.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead. You're the brains of the operation.
Yeah. No, thanks. So, well, thank you, Jenny, for having us. And on behalf of our crew, I'd like to also express a lot of gratitude for giving us the opportunity to share what we love to do, which Geyser Systems is all about transforming our relationship to every drop of water. I am the founder and CEO, which means I'm accountable and responsible for everything that's occurring within our enterprise. And also just really committed to leaving people with a greater sense of leadership within our team, as well as holding the integrity of our enterprise so that we can fulfill on our mission, which I know we're going to get to in a little bit, but I would also like to introduce one of the most important leaders in our enterprise, Eric Nunn, our project manager, and I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more from there.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm Eric. I know with the subtitles over here, the names are kind of back and forth, but I'm Eric. That's Jonathan. So yeah, as Jonathan mentioned, I'm the product manager, project manager. And so I operate a lot of the e-commerce side of things, and everybody here started on the assembly line. So I actually come from a background in product management and supply chain management, and then started here as an assembler because it was such a cool product. And yeah, since we're still, relatively small company, I wear a lot of different hats, which is super, super fun. So if there's an area of business that we're involved in, I probably know at least a little bit about it.
You've got your hands in everything.
I think what we're going to discover over the course of the next 30, 40 minutes together is that I'll say something and then Eric will see that there's something missing and he's going to fill in the gaps. It's a lot of fun. This is our first time to podcast and do this together. Yeah. And I know we're going to have a good time.
It's crazy.
So yeah, it's going to be a good time. We're really excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, why don't, so Jonathan, I would love it if you would be willing to share just kind of your story of how Geyser Systems came to be, kind of where the idea was born. I think would be a great place to start.
Yeah. So prior to starting this company 6 years ago, I was working in the medical device industry, designing and solving designing advanced surgical instruments and solving problems for physicians in arthroscopic, orthopedic, brain surgery. And, I had a dark night of the soul. I decided to do something that was really uncomfortable for me at the time, which is to quit my job. I sold everything I owned and I lived in the back of a van in Australia for a year. And I just wanted to be outside as much as possible. And while that was awesome, I had to, of course, overcome a lot of challenges along my journey. And one of those challenges was okay, I've always got propane, I've always got fuel, and I've got plenty of food, but water is like the first thing I always run out. And that's a problem I think we all share when we enjoy the great outdoors, is like we would love to have enough water to clean ourselves, our gear, our dishes, and also allow everyone to have a shower. And quite honestly, when it comes to cold showers, I cry like a baby. It like people laugh at me when I touch cold water. It just alters me. So I was really looking for a way to make a hot shower, and most importantly, make the most of every drop of water in the back of my van. And so that question was when it dawned on me, it really struck me. I was like, wait a second, if I could find a way to make the most of every drop of water, then answering that question could possibly change the world. And so I took everything I learned in designing surgical instruments, and I applied some very different approaches to come up with a product that we have today. In fact, Eric came prepared, and he's got a unit right here. Yeah. But
well, good.
Yeah, so you can get a sense of scale, right?
Yeah.
So this guy here.
So, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about it, but really the journey all starts while a guy was living pretty much homeless in the back of his van and smelling like a burning dumpster, and he had to figure a way out of that smell because, gosh, it was pretty bad and tragic. So. Yeah.
Yep. So how long then would you say from the idea being born to your first product being created? How long of a process was that?
It was really, it was really fast, especially if you consider the methodology that I implemented. It was a lot faster than any other product that I've ever commercialized. So from that question, 6 rounds of prototyping occurred within 6 months. Each round of prototyping, I got a lot of great feedback. And after the 3rd round of prototyping, I just trashed everything I started working on and just said, I got to start all over again.
Yeah.
And then after that point, it was like serendipity has her ways. I was able to get a product up and running and a really rock solid prototype that could deal with the Arctic tundra for a 4-week trip. And it supported this really cool overlanding expedition. And that was only like a year after I froze the design and concept and decided to make something that was much more manufacturable. So it was around a year and a half all put together.
Got it. And so when you first launched the product, then I guess maybe a 2 or 3 part question is, when you first launched the product, who was your target customer? And is that target customer still your target customer? And if not, how is it different?
Yeah, I'll let Eric chime in about the target customer, because he's seen the evolution is much closer to that than I am, for sure.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing for us is because this guy, it's a different way to shower. We effectively replace the shower head and your washcloth with a scrub like this. So for people that are keyed into looking for a shower, it's a pattern interrupt, right? It's not intuitive that you would shower using something like this. Totally. So as opposed to the wide appeal of going like a Shark Tank route or a Walmart route, what really worked for us later as we got out of the Kickstarter campaign is really narrowing in who our target audience was, and then getting this in the hands of people that we call we call them shamans. Those are the people in our community that are really keyed in with overlanding and with van life, and that see the practicality and the utility of this, and that they actually act it out. They embody that and demonstrate it. And then people in the community see how that product is used so that it resonates with them.
Got it.
That it saves so much water, that it's so compact.
Yeah.
And that you're scrubbing the dirt, the sunscreen, the sweat off of you, as opposed to a shower head that sprays water everywhere. None of that is super intuitive from a base level. So seeing shamans in the community acting that out, and talking about what a difference it made for them in their vehicles and in their lifestyle has really helped us gain momentum. But as far as like our original target customer, I don't know if you want to speak about the Kickstarter campaign, because that was before my time.
it was anybody who enjoyed the great outdoors. And I guess I have to jump around for those of you in the audience who are like, wait a minute, what's going on for this target audience? So if you don't see this video, what Eric was holding was a geyser system, which essentially carries 3 liters or 0.8 gallons of water. And in it, it's got a pump that operates like your heart. So the more you need, the faster it's going to pump. It'll deliver pressure consistently from beginning to end. And what's remarkable and disruptive is that 2 people can shower with 0.8 gallons of water, which is insane when you think about, like, wait a minute, 7-minute shower each, 2 gallons per minute, 14 gallons of water per person. So we're talking about like 28 gallons of water at home versus 0.8 gallons. Like, what? That there's nothing that's in the realm of like beyond imagination. And it's where we've been doing this for, man, I think it'd be like a year and a half, 2 years now. And we're like well over 300 reviews. We're a top rated product at REI, and the feedback and the 5 stars that we get is really fun, because at first when we launched this product to the audience, which was like overlanders, campervanners, or anybody who wants to do some car camping, I was like, I don't know, like, would they really be in for this? And like, everyone is just loving this product, which is so cool. It was a big leap of faith to launch something like this. So yeah.
That's awesome. And also for anyone who's joining right now, it might be great. Just if one of you could take a couple of minutes to just even define what, for overlanding might be a new term for many on the call. So what that means, how is that different from, say, car camping or camping in general? But maybe you could speak to that just briefly.
So the main thing with overlanding is that these are vehicles that are decked out to endure the elements for long periods of time. That's probably the duration and the intensity of the camping that separates it from just like casual weekend car camping. That, you have solar panels, you have power stations, they usually have like water systems on board, these massive fresh and gray water tanks in order to track all of their water use. And I think that's where we really come in. Like, these vehicles are typically outfitted to be like in the Australian outback, or there's a lot of overlanding, let's say in like South Africa, and going out into like the Namibian desert and things like that. So it's much less casual, and it's very much more of like an endurance sport, and getting really out there in the sticks and immersed in nature.
And it's very centralized around the rig or the vehicle. So if you can imagine something as large as a Sprinter van that's been outfitted to endure a lot of off-road capability, endure quite a bit of different terrain, and then it could go all the way down to something as small and as compact as a Jeep. Actually, overlanding is not a term that's just coined for 4-wheeled vehicles. We normally see like Tundras or Tacomas or Jeeps, but you'll see a lot of motorcycles. They're enduro style motorcycles, such as the BMW R1200 GS or your Africa Twin. It's much like Eric said, being able to be out in the middle of nowhere and really enjoy yourself, really be comfortable, and really endure the elements while being as far away from people as possible. So
yeah, it's so funny. I know, on a personal note, that being off grid for extended periods of time is something myself and my family do a fair amount. So personally, like, when I learned of this product, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I mean, so yeah, I imagine you get a great response from people who are also into that lifestyle. I want to shift gears a little bit, because I know, so Jonathan, you mentioned that, you founded this company about 6 years ago, which obviously there was this little thing called COVID that happened in the middle of that period of time, right? So I would love to hear from you. How did that affect business? And I mean, I guess I'll leave that there. How was that for you all?
Yeah, it was actually, at first it was quite a scary time, but I think it was a really defining moment for all of us. And I think every business leader that came out with a lot of wins, I think you'll see something very common in their approach, is that they put their people first. So way prior to a stay-at-home order, I was actually watching this unfold abroad And I just said, look, gang, I don't know what this is, but this is concerning. And I'm going to actually make some really strange requests, but I want to hear what everyone else has to say. And really looked through the lens of our 4 values. First and foremost, we say that you belong. Number 2, we say that you're an innovator. We say that together we're going to leave each other and the world better than we found it. And we say, fourth, at the level of leadership, that great leaders leave greater leaders behind. Mm-hmm. And so I remember distinctly that morning huddle when we were all like watching what was unfolding in the news.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, first is a level of safety, physical safety, not just emotional safety that comes with feeling like you belong. So I said, we're going to need to stay home. And we are going to innovate our way around it. And we're going to actually fulfill on our contracts and keep food on the table for everyone. Mm-hmm. And so what we did was really cool and creative. We all went home, but when we went home, we went with our equipment.
Yeah.
So one guy had the sewing machine, another guy had the press, another guy had and I had a Sprinter van that was just running around town with all the raw material after it sat in the back of my van for 24 hours. And we fulfilled on our contracts by literally building the product from each other's garages.
Oh, wow.
And I think more important than the fact that we were able to fulfill what we were committed to was, I think, a greater sense of us. I think everyone can agree that no matter who you are and where you are, COVID puts you in a position where you really have to look inwards, and you were really going to be isolated and alone. And we had to make some adjustments, getting to know ourselves. Mm-hmm. And being isolated for that long was really unhealthy. Well, for us, it was still an opportunity for us to still connect, get things done, keep our minds busy, stay focused on what's good. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think what came out of that relative to some other companies was that, we ensured that everyone, including their families, were safe.
Yeah.
As opposed to some other companies that were claiming themselves to be essential. And then we're sending their people home when the government authority said, hey, you can't be doing that.
Yeah.
No, we went above the intent of what was unfolding, and we made sure that everyone was not only physically safe, but mentally safe. And I think it just took a lot of compassion and kindness and just creativity and enthusiasm that, hey, the world may be melting down, but in this corner of the world, we're up to some really cool stuff. So,
yeah. Well, it's so interesting too, because during that time, and I'd be curious if this is true for you both, but I know when everything was locked down, that was honestly probably the most camping my family has ever done. There was nothing else it's not like you're getting on an airplane. You're not doing much other than what you can with the resources that you have. So I'm curious how, did you see a spike in sales because other people were also out doing their own adventuring? I mean, did that?
It was,
yeah.
It was insane. It was insane. All of a sudden we were already going from zero. I mean, we were still building our first order for REI at the time. And then we went from zero to hero on steroids, or I'm the engineer. Eric is the guy that's going to come up with something funnier. But I mean, I will say I had to beg people to not come to work, but come to our shop and keep up with these huge orders that were coming around. And so we continue to see an uplift from all of the circumstances that we all face together, and people getting outside and spending some more time, in the outdoors. So yeah.
And I would say overall too, the interest in camping has just continued to go up. We're still riding that wave. I think COVID was a wake up call for a lot of people. That getting outside is really important to your mental health, having that connection to nature. And also, if everything shuts down, I or you or whoever needs to be independent. I think that was also part of it. Both teamwork and having independence. And yeah, nothing proves that better than getting outside and spending a night outdoors and hearing spooky noises. And yeah, but it's also a really good bonding time too. Yeah, but for families, I think that really helps bring a sense of togetherness, and even going out with your friends, sharing a meal around the campfire. I think that's resonating on a bigger level than it was pre-COVID. So
I must
that wave.
totally. So I'm assuming that you both walk the walk and talk the talk. Is that true? Like, you get out, you adventure, you're both. Is that an assumption? Is that a fair assumption?
When we're not working.
When we're not working.
When we work a lot.
You know how like the donut maker like at first starts a business, and then the last thing he wants to do a couple years later is like eat a donut, because that's the last thing he wants to think about. I mean, but I'm not necessarily proud of this, but it's like I work so often and so hard and so long that I just forget to take a shower. And so that's the irony of this. It's like there's some days where I'm like, oh, I need to actually go and take a shower now. So But yeah, no, we live in a very beautiful corner of the world, and anyone who's listening, you are more than welcome to come by our shop in Montrose, Colorado. It's a beautiful tucked away little gem in Colorado. We got the San Juans, the Black Canyons, Orvis Hot Springs. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening in the southwest corner of Colorado that I would highly recommend checking out. And if Montrose is not it, then just to skip away, we got Telluride, Crested Butte, Durango, which is amazing. So it was definitely worth the drive out here.
Yeah. And so remind me, you all manufacture there, right? Like, or you're domestic?
Just through that wall behind the web.
Got it. God, that's where the magic happens, right?
Yeah.
So Jonathan, you brought up a good point about how, like, at least in your role, like, you feel like you work all the time, you don't have time to take a shower, but now you can take a very quick one with your product. But in all seriousness, how do you stay balanced? Like, when you've got so much going on and you're growing rapidly and you're seeing the growth that you saw just, in the last couple of years, how do you both make sure that you're not burning out or burning the candle at both ends? Like, how do you carve time out to make sure you can do that?
Yeah, that's a really good trick question. I would say Eric probably does a much better job than I do balancing life out, but he's actually undergoing a pretty big goal, which is going through night school. So I can relate to that, because I know what night school on top of a intense work environment would feel like. But as for me, I think the big turning point was last September for me, when I was at a point where I just knew the company was growing faster than I was capable of handling it. And so there was this podcast that I was listening to, How Things Work or How Things Get Made. And so I listened to the guy who created the OtterBox. And in the middle of that podcast interview, which was outstanding, he starts to get a little teary-eyed and starts to talk about this book called E-Myth, and how that coach in E-Myth really just changed the game for him. And so E-Myth, the entrepreneur myth, helped me immediately jumping on the book, because I powerfully related to everything he said. And I told my girlfriend about it, and she's like, yep, that book is awesome. You got to check it out. And so what I've done since last January is create systems, and just having a little bit more comfort around delegating and understanding, okay, what is it I can do? What is it I can't do?
Yeah.
What has unfolded as a result of that is a little bit more time to have other commitments in my life, as opposed to be consumed by all the circumstances in my life, which is something I really is invaluable for any entrepreneur. And having a great health and a great mindset is really important. But what I think creeps into those gaps are new things that could help the brand and the business grow. And I mean, as an example, actually today I had an overwhelming moment just today, because our lead investor and we actually had kicked off a conversation with WeFunder. So we are going to be opening around. And for those of you who are listening and really interested, we're actually going to kick off something we've never thought of doing, but our lead investor, who's an outstanding, the guys at Craftsman's Wealth are outstanding. They're saying, hey, we got to check out this thing called WeFunder together. And they've actually had a lot of experience with this. Long story short, now there's this whole new level of chaos that needs to be structured, organized, and systemized.
Mhm.
Of course, that doesn't happen until a couple months down the line. And then hopefully, you find people who not only are just capable and have the skills, but really believe in the mission and actually see what the future of this company will look like and unfold into, and just want to be a part of that ride. Luckily for me, I've got a bunch of people who are not working for me. In fact, I tell people, don't ever work for someone, work for the mission. Work for the mission. That's the thing to look and focus on, and everything will be fine. And everyone in our crew does that. And I think when people come into the shop, they just love feeling how committed everyone is here. So
That's great.
yeah.
So Eric, what about you? How do you find the balance that you may need to stay afloat?
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of it is, kind of like that second core value of ours. Like, you're an innovator.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, if I recognize them feeling burning out or feeling stressed, whether that's in or outside of work, it's looking at it from the perspective of, oh, this is a fun problem. This is not a stressful problem. This is a fun problem. How do I want to spend the next 5 minutes? How do I want to spend the next hour?
Yeah.
And for me, I'm fortunate being in Southwest Colorado. Like, right behind this backdrop, you can pick a direction on the compass and drive or hike like 30 minutes, and you're in a totally different landscape. So I'm lucky too that I live in a really nice part of the western slope here, where I can go take a hike right out my back door. So that's
awesome.
usually what I do on like my Saturdays and Sundays, especially enjoying the summer hours with more daylight. Is going up and hiking to the top of McKenzie Butte.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And to have it right in your backyard, literally,
And then reading, going to the hot springs, all that really helps to unwind and stay in touch with family, friends. That always helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see a question coming in. How do you build brand awareness and education for a product that folks never knew they needed?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think the end of that statement, that question that they never knew they needed, is I would reverse engineer that statement, right? So I would say, okay, well, what is the need? What real problem does this solve? And then show people that solution. So for us, that would be like, making the most of every square foot, making the most of every drop of water, showing people how compact and how all in one this is, and really like taking it from the perspective of not showing them the tech specs. I don't lead with the tech specs and here's all these awesome things it can do. I start with, these are the benefits to you as the customer.
Yeah.
This is what experience you can have by doing business with us. And really trying to, do our research and again, select a very, very specific problem and cast a narrow net. And then the word of mouth will help carry from there, as opposed to a really wide net that might not be super applicable. I just start with a really specific need statement and show how we solve that. I don't know if that answered your question, Todd, but I hope so.
Well, and I imagine that's also kind of speaks to who you were referring to earlier as the shamans, right? So some people may also not know, in this case, just how easy this product is to use and just how multifunctional it actually is. So seeing people using it and, I think probably helps with that education.
Yeah. And on that note too, on a technical side, video is the way to go instead of like writing out your product description. Or, let's say, for lack of a better term, display ads. At least for us, I can definitely vouch for the fact that having the product in motion and show, don't tell. That's kind of the rule of thumb. Yeah.
And I'll actually add something onto that. So Jenny, when you and I first met, it was at Outdoor Retailer, and that's a place that's very near and dear to my heart. And it's a very special event because 4 years prior to you and I meeting, I walked into that same place and I was walking around with a geyser in my hand. And my intent with the design was to be a little like inspiring, just having something that people have never seen before. And what's really fun was, when people walk around and they see the same old bag or same tent or something, it almost like just glosses over them, but then their eyes lock on this thing and they come over and they're like, what is that coffee machine? And so,
Yeah.
but what's funnier is like, and it's funny. It's like human
Yeah.
beings, like they want to file it somewhere, But what's really remarkable is that first moment, and I would say this happens more often than not. But when we introduce people, hey, this is where you put the water, 0.8 gallons. This is where you connect the tube, and this on the end of the tube is sponge. And all of a sudden, like all these lights light up right behind their head, and people all of a sudden they get it immediately. They're like, oh, okay, cool. And so I think more than this, the problem is the reality of how do we get people's attention and hold it long enough so that we can show people that, oh, you've had this problem all along, and here's a really interesting solution. The thing is that the solution speaks to the problem immediately.
Yeah.
And so I think we've managed to strike that in product design. I think Eric has definitely hit it out of the park, because when I was working on the marketing side of things, Eric, he was watching me the entire time, and he's watching me trying to tell people about the tech specs, the things that it does. And Eric was like, how's about we try it differently this time? How's about this season we try the experience instead?
Yeah.
And I'm like, the experience? No, people want to know these are the best things. And thank God, leading from the experience was like, that was the game changer for us.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. One thing I was going to ask you about, so I was reading through the impact report on your website, which was great, by the way. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you are in the process of becoming a certified B Corp. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We went through the impact assessment, and we just came on the other side of that impact assessment. And for our first time, we did quite well. We have all the ingredients for a B Corp, and I would imagine, if we do become a certified B Corp, then it's well within our reach. We're currently coming to the decision as to like, what is it that we want to do next? Because I think a lot of the B Corp, what we've learned in the impact assessment is how much it's catered to more larger corporations. And that's really important, because they're of course driving like the most impact, whether that be positive or negative. I think for a smaller company like ourselves, a lot of the things that they were asking for really guided us, and we learned a lot, and it kind of gave us new targets and benchmarks. But we also asked ourselves some really important questions about like, well, look, when it comes to our people, like, is it just benefits that we want, or like, is it actually like a good, healthy work environment? What is it that we really want to spend our money on, and how do we really want to treat each other? How do we want to feel at the end of our workday? Because I think a lot of people nowadays, the B Corp certification, they may have heard of, and they actually may benefit from the impact of that. But at the very end of the day, I think we all want to be a part of a group of people that we are really proud to be with, and we enjoy working and getting things done with. And I think that for us comes before anything that anyone else says, be that B impact or B Corp or anything else. So I think it's very important that we really decide for ourselves what we want to achieve before we just start fitting some sort of mold out there.
Yeah, totally. So you bring up a good question then, is like, what is next for Geyser Systems? Is it expanding the product line, refining? Can you even say, is it a big secret?
What secret? No. So we are not going to ever stop innovating. I mean, our goal is to continuously grow the company irrespective of economic condition. And one of the things that is required for that is to solve real problems for people.
Correct.
And so what we want to do is launch a second gen product based off of all the learnings. It will not replace our flagship, our current one, but what we have done is we're able, and we have right now a product and a prototype that we've actually validated with a lot of different people in a lot of different countries. And we foresee the water crisis around the world actually being solved, and that being done with our second gen product. So the next big step for us is getting that released sometime before the spring of next year. And then, not only making that available for the outdoor industry and those who love to enjoy the outdoors, but also people who are facing a real water crisis. Specifically, we aim to target the millions of people who are spending 10% of their income getting a water truck to deliver water to them, aka they're not connected to a water grid. And being able to get a product out to them that, number one, they can afford, and number two, would really help minimize their water consumption and therefore the amount of money that they're spending on water out there right now. Because I mean, the limitations to human development that I've seen and witnessed as a result of little water being around, I mean, it would blow your mind. And if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? So I say, let's change the world, kick ass, and have a lot of fun.
I love it. I think that sounds like a really good plan of what's next. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been incredibly interesting and informative and educational, and I just cannot wait to see what you all do next. And I love that we're all in the same network now, and I can't wait to continue to track and see how things are going and become a proud owner of one of your products as well. But yeah, so thank you so much. I really appreciate you both taking the time today, and I look forward to staying connected.
As well. Thank you, Jenny. It's great to thank you very much for having us. And yeah, I think it's been a great time.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and take care.
All right. That sounds good.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you.